your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here for the Locked On Big 12 podcast. Today it is September 24th, 2021, and on today's show, it is a preview football Friday, a whole weekend of Big 12 football to get to. Before we do, I want to give a few notes here of admin. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at LO Big 12 is Twitter handle. You can follow me. You can see it right here. It is at Josh Neighbors _. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, make sure you find us on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, or wherever else you guys get your podcasts. Give us a rating and a comment as well. And then if you guys are listening to us on the audio side, make sure you guys find us on YouTube. You can find us there, Locked On Big 12. Subscribe to the channel, leave some comments, some ratings. That's the best way to interact with us. And I always love reading your all's comments, especially when it comes to issues such as conference expansion and realignment. Whatnot. You guys have been a lot of fun to do with on those, as have the comments about the games, which we are going to discuss today. We have a full slate of Big 12 action, and we are going to preview all of it. One more thing that I want to mention before we get into it. There are actually three Big 12 golfers, former Big 12 golfers, involved in this weekend's Ryder Cup. Scotty Scheffler, Jordan Spieth, and also Victor Hovland. So those three guys are representing the Big 12 Conference in what is maybe one of the most high-pressure situations in sports. If you guys want a two-screen experience tomorrow, I'm going to have three screens probably going. I'm going to have definitely, especially in that early window, going to have that Texas game on, going to have the TCU game on, going to have the golf on for sure. Both Spieth and Scheffler are alums of the University of Texas. And then also Victor Hovland is an Oklahoma State Cowboy. And also BYU, Tony Finau, he was a commit there, obviously didn't go. And then also on the coaching side, Freddie Couples, a University of Houston alum. So that is going to be a new school Big 12 connection that is coming up here pretty soon. So I want to shout out those three guys, or those five guys, I should say, but the three really that are playing. Wanted to shout those guys out before we got going. Awesome weekend full of sports. You've got a UFC pay-per-view, NFL, college football, Formula One race, Ryder Cup. I mean, it really all is right there for you. And I think it's a great time to mention our friends over at betonline.ag. If you want to get in on that action, any of that action, now is the time to do it. Go to betonline.ag today. When you go there, use the promo code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON, Locked On. And you can get a deposit bonus today. But once again, all of those sports and cool props as well, you can find right there at BetOnline. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, let's break down some ball. You guys know how we do it. We go in chronological order for all of these games on the day. So here is the situation here. The first game is 11 o'clock on FS1. It's SMU at TCU. The battle for the Iron Skillet. Freddie was talking, it was Steven Simcox earlier this week who said all great rivalries are battles over cookware. This one is not much different in that regard. Both these teams are 3-0 on this, or excuse me, undefeated. TCU is 2-0. SMU is 3-0, led by former Oklahoma quarterback Tanner Mordecai. He leads the country in touchdown passes with 16. There was some trash talk earlier in this week by some players on the SMU side. SMU won a 19, but TCU won the previous 7 meetings before that. The Horned Frogs are 9-point favorites in this game. And look, we saw them open things up a little bit against Cal. And I think they should do it. But I really do think that to completely avoid a shootout, TCU should run the football. Not because I think it's the best way for them to score. It might end up being that or the pass, but it's the best way for them to control the game because they can. They've got the guys to run the football this weekend on SMU. When you think about that backfield, which obviously has been led by Zach Evans, who has been an absolute hoss so far this season. maybe this is the game where we see them unleash Max Duggan a lot more in the running game. Really haven't had to. And look, I've been a proponent of trying to keep him more upright, keep him involved more in the passing game. Let some of those guys who do the running, more towards the Kendre Miller and Zach Evans guys, let them really do a lot more of the damage on the ground. Duggan's got 21 carries, which is a good number through 2 games, but I think they've done a good job of making sure it's not, a almost running back's workload, a high 15 carries a game, some number in there. I think this game is the game where if you want to control the clock, let that be a 3-headed monster in the backfield, Evans, Duggan, and Kendre Miller. And then also if you throw in Foster in there too, you could do that. But yeah, they've got plenty of options in the backfield. I think they use those guys in this game. I think, Quentin Johnston is obviously going to be there available for those deep shots, which they've hit a few of this year. Can they get, Tay Barber going? Can they get J.D. Spielman going? I think we know Quentin Johnston's going to be there, but maybe I think they should start off by using the running game to open up the pass. I think they can establish it, in the words of Richard Johnson over from Split Zone Duo. They can establish that run and hang on to this game and really be in control of it. I think TCU wins. I think SMU covers because 9's a lot in a rivalry game, and I think SMU is going to be able to score some points, especially if they're able to run the ball. If TCU can run the ball out of the way, you're going to limit number of possessions this game, so it would be more conducive to it being a lower scoring game. Now, the one scary thing for TCU is the fact that Chase Garbers did light them up a little bit, so you do have some fears with what Tanner Mordecai might do in that respect. So once again, TCU wins, SMU covers, maybe a late touchdown or something, but I think TCU has control of this game. They're able to go on and win. All right, my favorite game of the day is Texas Tech at Texas, 11 a.m. on ABC. My friend Dusty Dvorak and my buddy Tom Luganbill going to be on the call this game on ABC alongside Dave Pasch. This one's really interesting. It's an 8.5 point spread. The line's going down to 8 in some places. Depends on where you look. Texas has won the last 3 straight in this, including last year's absolutely absurd game. Really, what's at stake here? Matt Wells needs a statement win, in my opinion, because this one was the one that got away last season. This was the one that really, if they win this game, maybe the pressure cooker is not as high. Maybe the pressure not on as much if he wins this last year. And I think Parker Fleming, Stats War on Twitter, put it pretty well. It's kind of a narrative elimination game. Now, what's really funny is we think about these two teams as old school Big 12, but the thing that both these teams do at a very impressive clip is run the football. Both Taj Brooks and Xavier White have been impressive on the ground so far this year for Texas Tech. Bijan Robinson has been spectacular, and we all talked about getting him the requisite amount of touches. Go back to last season. All of last year, Bijan Robinson totaled 101 touches. This year, in just 3 games, 58 touches, and he's averaging 6.7 yards per touch. He's only got 6 catches, but on those 6 catches, he's averaging over 15 yards a catch because if you're watching it, these aren't just, he's running downfield. He's catching the ball a lot of the time near line of scrimmage, and he is the most elite athlete in space. He is one of the best I've ever seen at this level in space. He is a legitimate, excellent NFL talent. I know the conversation about running backs, especially the next level, has changed. But in the game, it's about blocking and tackling. Bijan Robinson kind of actually helps you on the blocking front because if you block a little bit, he gets upfield, he'll do the rest. And the tackling part, he makes it really difficult in other teams to tackle. And at this level, we always talk about blocking and tackling being 2 things that are so important. Bijan Robinson makes that so difficult. I think they feed him the rock and they get him in space because he is, once again, like he is in most matchups, the most elite athlete on this field. So I'm excited to see what happens there. And I also think that this is another example of Texas having the better athletes. And I think we might see what we saw in the Rice game and that game against ULL. If it's a good team, and I think Texas Tech might be a good team, might be a decent team. If it's a good team, but the athletes aren't quite up to your caliber for Texas, I think they can control things. I think this is a game where we don't worry about that line of scrimmage as much as you had in the couple previous games, especially that Arkansas game. So I think Texas takes this one. I'm going to lay the 8.5. I do think this game can get a little shootouty, but I think Texas can put some distance between them and Tech and take care of business in this game. I think they can. All right, moving on to the next game. This one is 2:30 on Fox. Number 14, Iowa State at Baylor. Baylor is getting 7 points. At home, they're wearing their all-gold uniforms, a uniform that they have worn that they have not lost in. So that is an interesting wrinkle. I actually want to ask Gabe Eichert today when I'm on Big 12 today, hey, how much of a psychological edge could that stuff play? You know, I'm really not a huge believer in it. I'm just wondering what his opinion is on the matter. Iowa State has won the last one. They've won 3 of the last 4 of this series. They won last year 38-31 in a game that was very close. And once again, I mentioned it all week. That was the game where Brock Purdy in the beginning was very strong. Flip it. In the beginning, very bad. In the end, very strong. This is a great opportunity against a really strong defense. And for Baylor, we don't know much about, I've said this a bunch. We know that Baylor wants to run the football. Excuse me. We know Baylor wants to run the football, and we know that Baylor is going to hang their hat on their defense. They've done a great job with Jeff Grimes of establishing that outside zone running game that they really wanted to get going, and that's been a massive part. It's been their offense. Also rolling out Gary Behan and getting him in space. And we talked at the beginning of the year, hey, why do you make the decision to go with Gary Behan and the quarterback as opposed to maybe a Jacob Zeno or whoever else they had there fighting for that position? Well, it's because you trust him to take care of the football. And that's what he has done an excellent job of so far this season, of running the offense, taking care of business, and helping establish that running game. He has been a part of that as well. So I think that's the goal for them in this game, is to establish it and then see if they can use the Iowa model of having the opponent make mistakes against them. Can they have your opponents make the mistakes to keep you in this game? I think Iowa State wins. I think they cover. I think, to use the kind of like old cliche, separation Saturday, I'm kind of buying that. I think this is a Saturday where we see a bunch of these, the bunch at the top, the top tier Big 12 teams. I think they put that space between them. Check the Ryder Cup scores right now. We're 3 up, 2 up, 2 up. So things are looking pretty good right now for the Americans. This is a weekend where the top tier teams finally put some of that space between them and the rest of the pack. I think Iowa State in the situation is no different. I think they do put a little pressure on right here. I think they do show up. And here's the problem, I think, for Baylor is that the quality jump here is high. There was no middle tier opponent for Baylor to play to kind of prep themselves as they get ready for Iowa State. So I think Iowa State up front, their defense has been absolutely nasty this season. They have had a great defense. They really only have given up like 2 true touchdown drives of consequence. It feels like really we saw, they played obviously UNI, UNLV, and Iowa, but really they haven't given up too many full touchdown drives of consequence. And what I mean by that is that a lot of the times Iowa State, when they give up points, they've been put in a bad spot. Their defense has been put in a short field situation. So I've been trying to kind of really track how many true touchdown drives they've given up. And really only is a handful. They really haven't given up many true touchdown drives, maybe 1 in each game or even less than that. So, in a big spot, in an important situation. So this defense is primed and ready. I really think that I think that Baylor's defense is going to have to show up for the whole game, because I think Iowa State's defense is going to give Iowa State's offense maybe a little bit more room to struggle in the beginning, find their footing, and then get going. But the challenge is going to be for Baylor's offense to get going against the Iowa State defense. I think Iowa State's defense really carries the day here. I think maybe 31-13, maybe 27-13. I think Iowa State eventually kicks it into high gear and is able to get that offense clicking on all cylinders. All right, we'll get to the rest of the games here in a second, but first, a word from our sponsors. Today's Locked On Big 12 podcast is brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting, best for you protein bar in this protein bar game today. you go to BuiltBar.com. You check out all the flavors: coconut, cherry bar chia, raspberry, mint brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel, strawberry, orange, cookies and cream, and German chocolate. 17 to 18 grams of protein, calorie ranges from 130 to 180, only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. You go to Built.com today. It's Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15, LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off at Built.com today. Real quick here, Kansas at Duke at 3 o'clock on the ACC Network. Duke are 16-point favorites. They've righted the ship just a little bit. I don't think they're that good of a team, but neither is Kansas. Here is what I want to see from Kansas. I talked about this the other day on the Power Rankings episode. Go check that one out. They've put together good enough first half because they were in a one-score game against Baylor in the second half. They were in a one-score game against Coastal in the second half. Now it's about that third and fourth quarter for them. This is what progress looks like for a program starting at the bottom. The problem for them is they're in a conference, and I mean this down the line, conference where they have a lot of difficult games. This is a great opportunity for them to finish strong and maybe not win games, but be competitive in the third and fourth quarter. And a 16-point spread here. I think Jason Bean and company keep this thing a little bit closer. Hoping they can get Lassiter out in some space to make some plays. I think Kansas can keep this thing close. I think Lance Leipold, they know they have to finish strong. That's really their goal. And I think they're able to finish strong and keep this thing within the 16. I'm not saying they win. They can keep this thing within the 16. All right, coming up to your marquee matchups on the day. 6 o'clock on ESPN Plus. It's Kansas State, who's ranked number 25. They are going to Oklahoma State, where they are underdogs. Kansas State is underdogs by 6 points. This line opened up at around, 9.5. Oklahoma State's won back-to-back games, ironically enough. Chris Klieman's 2 years at Kansas State. He is 2-2 against Oklahoma schools. He has beaten the Oklahoma school you don't think, and he has beaten them twice. And Jordan Spieth falling over. Hope he almost ran into the water there. He has beaten the Oklahoma team you would not expect twice. He's beaten Oklahoma twice. Oklahoma State, you think maybe he can catch, and he has not done so yet. This game is an intriguing matchup because I think maybe whoever wins is in pole position to be that third team in the conference, where they win over maybe one of those other teams that's pressing to be top tier of the conference. Will Howard, this is his first true road test. If this was Skylar Thompson, I would be favoring Kansas State here. Will Howard was fine last week, but him going on the road, I think he's going to have to make plays against what's been a really strong Oklahoma State defense. Kansas State, I said earlier, they stopped the run really well, and they run the ball pretty well, right? Deuce Vaughn's been over 120 on the ground in all 3 games that he's played so far this season. Kansas State's allowing 1.4 yards per rush attempt. Oklahoma State is 2.5 yards per rush attempt as well. Parker Fleming thinks Stats Awards on what's going on Twitter thinks Kansas State's going to win this game. That's kind of the analytics say, but I think that the numbers at this point aren't accounting for the fact that it's Will Howard on the road in his first year road game. I think his performance last week against Nevada was good, but it also is going to skew kind of what we've seen. And look, they just need somebody to run the offense there for Kansas State and hold the fort down and keep it steady. I don't think he can do that. I'm not sure that he's going to be able to find Amatri Bebe and Knowles and Deuce Vaughn maybe to the same extent he did last week. I think they ride Deuce Vaughn as much as possible. I think Oklahoma State's defense is ready for it. I know Oklahoma State's banged up on both sides of the ball, but I think this is the game where Oklahoma State does come out of their shell. I think they force a couple turnovers. I think Spencer Sanders knows this is it. This is the game where maybe you can start to make that case against that 3-man front. They're going to need him in the running game too. Maybe he can hopefully use that to start establishing the pass. I know they're so banged up at wide receiver, but I think this is the game against maybe what is a weaker Kansas State secondary. This is where things start clicking. Oklahoma State wins. Kansas State covers in a close, low-scoring contest, which really brings us to the main event of the day at 6:30 on ABC. It's West Virginia at Oklahoma. Oklahoma, 17-point favorites. Before I kind of preview this game when we wrap up, want to mention Make sure you guys check out Locked On Sooners for more coverage of this game, Locked On Pokes for Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and also Locked On Horned Frogs for more coverage of TCU and SMU. They will have much more in-depth breakdowns of those games. This one, I think that there's a version of West Virginia that was built to kind of maybe get that first win in the Big 12 against Oklahoma. This is the version. The problem is I don't think the quarterback's the limiting factor here. Jared Dagey is statuesque. Last week, Oklahoma got 5 sacks. This week, I think they have more success in that department as well. Hopefully for Oklahoma, their offensive line can hold up. I think Oklahoma covers the 17 points in this game. I think it's going to be a difficult environment for Jared Dagey to have some success in. West Virginia has been pretty good this year. They're 11th in the country in third down offense, but Oklahoma's third in the country in third down defense. The problem for West Virginia this year has been in 4 quarters in the second half against Power 5 teams, the 2 quarters they played against Maryland, the 2 quarters they played against Virginia Tech, they have a total of 6 points. They are not finishing games well. The offense is wiltering as the game goes on. And when a defense like this is going to wear on you, I know no Jalen Redmond this week, but when a defense like Oklahoma, especially their front, is going to wear on you and an offense that's got problems at tackle for West Virginia, I think it's a bad situation for West Virginia. I think Oklahoma wins this game. I think their offense gets back on track. I think it might be one of those slow burns, but I think eventually Oklahoma is able to get that offense going, maybe a 38-13, maybe 35-10 kind of score line. I think Oklahoma really does stick it this week to West Virginia. And the reason why I said I think this type of team is the right one, it's because West Virginia's front is very strong. Now, they don't force many takeaways. And I think that's what you got to do. You got to be able to force some takeaways, to force some of that action against Oklahoma. And I don't think this West Virginia team is going to be able to do that, although they could be in the backfield some this weekend. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I do think OU takes care of business. No Saturday 7 this week because I also have to do some Locked On National stuff. Once again, make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. You can follow me at JoshNeighbors_. Until next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.